Hi everyone, and welcome back to Modern Jubilees. In this video, I want to go through a part of chapter 8 that I did not focus on in the last video, and that has to do with an apparent buffer zone between the plots of Ham and the plot of Shem in Jubilees chapter 8. Now, you could read this as the buffer zone doesn't exist, but you could definitely read it that it does. Because between Japheth and Shem's lots, when the lines are being explained, they perfectly overlap. We talk about the exact same places. We talk about the Ma'at Sea, we talk about the Dan River, we talk about the mountain range that the Dan River goes up into, and we talk about Phrygia, which is Turkey. We talk about these islands. Basically, the whole thing lines up between Shem and Japheth. So that's why Constantinople, today's Istanbul, was the meeting point between Japheth and Shem, who got along. If we remember the story where the things started happening between the sons and Noah, was where Noah drank wine. That night he went to sleep. He was exposed in his tent. Ham came in and saw him exposed in his tent, and instead of simply covering his father, he told his other two brothers. The other two brothers came into the tent facing backwards with a blanket. Shem had taken the initiative and brought Japheth with him to cover up their father. When Noah woke up, he said, "Blessed is the God of Shem, and may Canaan be his servant," Ham's son Canaan. And so this whole thing started there. So the issue was not between Japheth and Shem ever, and so they have no buffer zone. But when it comes to Ham and Shem's lot, there is apparently a buffer zone. So with this in mind, let's go back through these writings from chapter 8 and see what on earth I am talking about. All right, so it begins with verse 12. According to the writing, Shem's lot was the middle of the earth. So from the middle of the Rapha mountain range, which was up here, so the middle of the Rapha mountain range, because everything above that, the cold areas, even of Asia, belonged to Japheth. From the middle of the Rapha mountain range, from the mouth of the water of the Tina river, his lot goes through the middle of this river until it approaches the abyss of the waters this river comes from, etc. So it's going to talk about Shem's lot, and let's go through it quickly. This river empties and pours into the Ma'at Sea and goes into the Great Sea, which is the Black Sea. Everything north of this is Japheth's, all that is south of it is Shem's. It extends until it reaches Karaso, which is within the tongue that looks toward the south, and this is important. Karaso is the Rhina Kurura. It is the El Arish Wadi. That is the line currently between Israel and Egypt, meaning between Israel and the Sinai Peninsula. And that line is an ancient line that was essentially a compromise line because the Rhina Kurura is actually wavy and goes up, and so they add a little triangle, and we looked at this in the last video. The line stands. So that's the Rhina Kurura, and that is the boundary of Shem's lot. And that is within the tongue that looks toward the south, which is the Sinai Peninsula. His lot extends along the Great Sea. It extends in a straight line until it reaches west of the tongue that looks toward the south, which is the Arabian Peninsula now. This sea is called the tongue of the Egyptian Sea. So this would be here, this sea, the tongue of the Egyptian Sea. This would be the Egyptian mouth, I suppose, and this would be the tongue. It turns south from there toward the mouth of the Great Sea on the shore of the waters. And that now is this Pac-Man. This is the mouth of the Great Sea on the shore of the waters. It extends west to Ofra until it reaches the waters of the Gihon River and to the south of the waters of the Gihon. And so that's around this lake here. So perhaps this line goes up actually here to the banks of this river. So wherever that goes, there's perhaps this little line here. It extends eastward until it reaches the Garden of Eden to its south. Now to go east, it has to reach the Garden of Eden to its south. The Garden of Eden should be in somewhere around this area. But we're not talking about the north anymore. So this is the first thing we're looking at. Now it extends eastward from the east of the entire land of Eden, and from the whole east it turns around and continues until it reaches east of the mountains called Rapha, until it gets back there. It then descends to the bank of the mouth of the Tina river, and that is again the Dan river. This piece came out in the lot for Shem and his sons, that they should have it forever for all generations. Noah rejoiced that this portion was chosen for Shem and his sons. He remembered all that his mouth had spoken in prophecy. He had said, "Blessed be God, Lord of Shem, and may God dwell in the tents of Shem." He knew that the Garden of Eden is the Holy of Holies, where God dwells. Mount Sinai is the center of the desert, and Mount Zion is the center of the navel of the earth. These three were created as holy places facing each other. So we talked about this. Garden of Eden facing Mount Sinai, facing Mount Zion. He blessed the Lord of gods who had put the word of God in his mouth. He knew that a blessed lot and a blessing had come to Shem and the children of his generations forever. The entire land of Eden, the entire land of the Red Sea, the entire land of the east, India, the Red Sea, the mountains of it, all the lands of Bashan, all the lands of Lebanon, the islands of Kaftor, the mountains of Sinir, Amana, and Ashur in the north. Also all the lands of Elam, Ashur, Bavel, Susa, Media, all the mountains of Arad, and the whole region beyond the sea, which is beyond the mountains of Ashur to the north, a blessed and prosperous land. All that is in it is very good. Okay, verse 22. So now we're getting to Ham's lot. The second lot was for Ham. Beyond the Gihon, so the Gihon is the Nile, and we know this from both the Septuagint and Josephus. Toward the south, to the right of the garden. So let's go slowly. So now we're starting the second lot for Ham. Beyond the Gihon, toward the south, to the right of the garden, so around here. It extends toward the south to all the mountains of fire. There are mountains of fire somewhere around here, and that is the boundary that is included in Ham's lot. It extends to the west to the Sea of Atil, to the Atlantic. Extends west, including this, to the Atlantic, and goes further west until it reaches the Sea of Mizrach, that sea to which all not yet destroyed descend. So it sounds like they're talking about the much deeper part of the Atlantic Ocean, not just the shores of the water, but the very deep part of the ocean where all the sea creatures live. It continues north to the borders of Gadir, which we said was here by Cadiz, Andalusia, Spain, which, by the way, perhaps it includes this tiny little bit of the bottom of Spain because it goes to Cadiz. It continues to the coast of the sea waters, to the waters of the Great Sea, until it reaches the Gihon River. Now it goes to the Gihon River. It doesn't go to the Rhino Kirura. It goes to the Gihon River. It goes along the Gihon River until it reaches to the right of the garden. This is the land that is Ham's lot, that he will keep for himself and the children of his generations forever. And so this is the only time where we don't have an overlap. For some reason, this goes to the Gihon, whereas Shem's lot goes to the Rhino Kirura, the El Arish Wadi. So how do we explain this? I think that what it is saying is that there is a sort of buffer zone, and that east of the Nile River is a place, a meeting point for Shemites and Hamites, where both Shemites and Hamites can live and go to trade with each other. Yes, it's talking about very harsh mountains in the Sinai Peninsula, but here it's unclear what the big difference is, but it doesn't necessarily belong to Shem, it doesn't necessarily belong to Ham. It could perhaps belong to both of them and be some sort of buffer zone. So I wanted to add that to the conversation, that there does appear to be this buffer zone. Let me know what you think. There are apparently conflicts in these areas between Shemites and Hamites. Shemites, let's say from the Arabian Peninsula, and Hamites from more western into Africa that are in areas like Sudan fighting. So could this map that is laid out in the Book of Jubilees, I have no dog in this fight, help in any way to figure out placement of different people these days? Let me know what you think. Here's another map. So the buffer zone would be here, although the Red Sea itself would be included in Shem's lot because it does say the Red Sea. It said the entire land of Eden, the entire land of the Red Sea, and the entire land of the East, India. Well, the land of the Red Sea, if it's included in Shem's lot, let's see, the entire land of Eden, the entire land of the Red Sea, and the entire land of the East, India, on the Red Sea and the mountains of it. And so maybe everything east of the Nile does belong to Shem. Again, we need the original Hebrew to be absolutely clear. For sure, everything west of the Nile belongs only to Hamites, and so if that can help with any of the conflicts going on, then that would be amazing. The Horn of Africa is meant to be ruled by Shemites. This buffer zone, though, does appear to be interesting because it does say the Rhino Kura is a boundary, and then it says that the land of the Red Sea belongs to Shem. So how do we understand that? I'm just putting it here as a buffer zone because as we continue to study this book, we are learning more and more about these boundaries that are really one of the more significant parts of this book. And as we'll get in later, one of the tribes of Ham, one of the sons of Ham, Canaan, who is supposed to be settled in the west of Africa, ends up settling in the land of the promised land of the Bible. So let's pick this up next time. I hope this was interesting for you. Let me know how this can potentially help these areas, because this is an ancient text, and this is what Noah and his sons agreed to. In the next chapter, we're going to see how they promise, they make an oath to their father Noah that they will uphold this separation and these boundaries in the presence of an angel. They make this oath. So we'll get to that next chapter. All right, thank you for listening. Please subscribe and share this content with others. Let's get a community of people who can talk about these difficult topics in a respectful way, where we can get to the bottom of how this world can be more organized and peaceful for everyone in it. Thank you again for listening. This is Modern Jubilees, and we will see you next time.